Hello. So I'm going to be sharing my testimony. Those of you who have known me a long time, most of you being 8th graders, and there's a couple people who know my family. Hello? Okay. Well, when I was very young, my mother was diagnosed with a disease. It's called ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. It attacks the muscles, and it limits breathing, almost to where it's impossible to breathe by yourself. And I was about, I don't remember. I was young.
6.
About 6. Thank you. And so, when you're that young, it doesn't really hit you. You don't understand what's going on. So all I really remember is being in the hospital in a waiting room, and the pastor and all these adults were there crying. And I was crying because I kind of understood that my mother was really sick, but then again, I didn't. I didn't realize it was life-threatening. And she was sick for about 2 years. And then when I was 8, on June 2nd, 2006, she chose, basically, to go be with her father in heaven. And that was a really tough time. But I had so many people that loved me, and family, and not family, but people who are family now, actually, because my father is recently remarried to a wonderful woman who I love very much, and is my mother now. And her family has become my family, and they really already were, because her sister was my mother's best friend. And so it's just been such a great experience to be able to really be part of that family. When I was about 10 and 11, it got harder. This was before they were married. And I really started to think, why did God let this happen to me? And I actually had a really good friend who wasn't a Christian at the time, but is now. And she was the one that reminded me that I had a Savior who loved me and would never let anything horrible happen to me. And that's just really been really helpful. And I feel very strong in my relationship with Christ now. And I know that He loves me, and He will never leave me nor forsake me. And I told you I would share my favorite verse, because it applies very, very much to my story. It's 2 Corinthians 12, 9-10. But He said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." And I also have kind of a story that I'm sure some of you have heard. It's called Footprints in the Sand. And it definitely hits home with me, and I'm sure it would hit home with a lot of you. It says, "One night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For in each scene he noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of prints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times of his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. 'Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times of my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why when I needed you most, you would leave me.' The Lord replied, 'My son, my precious child, I love you and would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you.'" And so I know that that's just, sometimes it's hard to believe that there's someone there for you, but there always is. He's always there for you. And that's my testimony.
That's a great